Well, finding the lead in anything, and especially for a young child, is we immediately have ideas of people that we think of, but kids change so quickly that you have to then do a big search.
We were looking for an Anne that would be able to play 10 or 11 years old. We had a very wide audition policy. We auditioned in 7 cities across Canada. We had people submit their auditions on YouTube, or they were able to submit DVDs to us.
There were some real contenders from the YouTube, that got all dressed up and, with the pigtails and the hats and sets and everything, got very, very involved.
We had auditions coming from all over the place, and I saw well over 1,000 potential contenders. Now, when you're looking at that many performers, it's almost impossible at times to distinguish one from the next. You look for certain qualities, and you're hoping that you're going to find the perfect Anne of Green Gables just in this next DVD, and she's going to jump right off the screen, but that doesn't often happen.
Well, it's an interesting thing because there was the whole thing of just being a good, self-confident actor at that age. And then there was also, in the back of our minds, I think, the matchup with Megan.
Yeah, it was the burden of having the right physicality. And quite a few had the right physicality, but it became fairly clear because of the writing that it needed to be somebody who is technically very proficient or naturally has the ability to handle a terrific amount of text and carry the whole movie.
Right, and the period dialogue really that comes with that. So many of these kids that we see are so modern, and to get past that with things other than hair and wardrobe,
Imagine you were an orphan with nowhere to go, and you come to a place like this hoping an important person like yourself might grant you a chance.
My eldest daughter, Taylor, was being very conscientious, and I had skimmed over this audition because I thought, oh, that young girl just is too cute. And she made me go back and look at her again. And it was the one thing that stopped me and caught me. She really forced me to look at her. Hannah became one of a group of about 8 potential auditionees from across the country who we brought in and did actual screen tests on.
Every audition I had with Kevin was very intense. He would ask me to do something and I'd do it and it may not be quite right, so he'd get me to do it again. And so it was, it was intense and it could be tiring at times, but I loved it because Kevin has a very inspiring way of talking about Anne, and he loves Anne so much in the whole story that he just really inspires you.
And I remember when I first saw Hannah, I thought, well, here's a young girl who, doesn't have a lot of experience, is obviously very raw talent, but I saw that she had Megan's eyes.
She made it through the first cut, and what I discovered in her character and in her persona was a tremendous ability to be sincere and to master the language. She was able to master pages and pages of dialogue and to make it sound real.
Bring me back to my native land. Take a message to some distant friends of mine. For I was born at Bingen on the Rhine.
But more than that, she was completely directable. She had a very strong ability to be able to listen carefully and to take directions, process it all, and then play it back as though it were her own.
I will take as much as I can at one time and I'll do it, and then he'll give me a bit more and then I'll do it. So it's all working up. I mean, I learned a lot. At first it was more difficult, and after time passed it became sort of second nature,
So gradually what happened through the audition process is that she just kept getting closer and closer and closer. Each time we auditioned her, she became better and better and better, until all of a sudden, there was no question about it. Once we did the screen test where we dyed her hair red, she was in period clothing, and we did it on a set. It was easy to see that she was the actress who could be directed better than any other actress and who came out of her shell and really embodied the qualities that I was looking for in Anne.
I think once you put on the costume, it all becomes real. In my first audition, I wasn't wearing a costume. But then the second audition, I wore one. And then the third audition, I wore more of a costume. I had my hair dyed and everything. And then when we got into filming, it was full costume, everything. Your mindset switches and you're in that time.
The other big challenge was eye color. Hannah is blonde and blue-eyed, so we had to dye her hair red And then we had to rotoscope her eyes in almost every scene to be able to change them to a dark green brown, because Barbara's eyes are naturally greeny brown. Hannah and her sister Vivian, who also appears in the film as Violetta, had play acted Anne of Green Gables since they were tiny, tiny kids, and had watched the videos over and over again. So they knew the stories inside out. That was a blessing and a curse, because this Anne is a precursor to the original Anne. So I could draw on the films as a reminder as to where the character was and how she would need to be in a certain circumstance. But I also had to direct Hannah to make the character her own.
I would bring what Megan Follows did, and then I would also think about, well, Anne's younger now too, and so she maybe hasn't had as many experiences. I'd think about it and bring something that I thought, or Kevin thought, should be part of the younger Anne. I've done what, me as someone who loves Anne so much, I've done what I thought she would do, and I tried very hard to bring everything that people love about Anne into it.
I don't know how she did it every day with all those lines and the discipline that it took for her to go on with her schooling as well. I liked her a lot, though. She was a very sweet person.
Come on now, you go back inside.
In my mind, it was a great collaboration. She really was able to listen to everything that I had said.
Well, I won't worry about asylums for a little while longer. I'm going to imagine this is all part of a beautiful mirage, and thank God for it 2 or 3 times a minute. I'm sorry. Am I talking too much? No one ever talks to you. Do go on. Well, when I saw how tyrannical the matron was to my very first day, I knew instinctively you must have a lifelong sorrow. I dare not say. The walls are here. When she struck you without reason, it made me hate that matron fiercely. The Bible says an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.